Hello, everybody, and welcome to this session. I'm Phil Charnock. I'm from a company called Draw and Code, and I'm here with the support of Invest Liverpool, and we're going to be looking at how immersive technology is driving growth across the Liverpool City region. Joining me today, we're going to have Duong, who's from Alder Children's Hospital from the Innovation Department, where they're doing incredible work using XR actually in live situations in the hospital. We're also going to be talking to National Museums Liverpool. That's the largest museum organisation outside of London. And we're going to be speaking to Fiona Philpott, who's the Director of Exhibitions. And we're going to be speaking to Scott Smith, who is the Head of Digital and who's been getting his head deeply into the world of immersive as the museum industry changes. And we're going to be speaking to Owen Cottrell, the Co-Founder and Creative Director of Juice Immersive. Juice Immersive is a boutique XR strategic and production agency based here in Liverpool. And we'll be looking a little bit at the company that I represent, Draw and Code. So we're going to get into it. So spatial and game engine technologies are set to become as useful and ubiquitous as the big name computer operating systems themselves. The Liverpool City region is poised to benefit from this, and this sounds like it's a very big, grand, sweeping statement. But only last week I was reading speculation about whether Disney will use Unreal or use their own proprietary game engines in their theme parks. So we're talking about game engines powering theme parks that have millions of visitors per year. This technology is about to appear in all aspects of our lives, just as computer and mobile operating systems do today. Now, when we're thinking about the use of immersive and game engine technology, we like to think about what the Liverpool City region already excels at and what immersive tech can do to help us do those things even better. So one thing that Liverpool is rightly very proud of is its history in medical innovation. Obviously, we're going to speak to Alder, but there's all sorts of other incredible facilities, such as the School of Tropical Medicine, and there's all sorts of big pharma companies represented here in the region. We're going to look at culture and events because Liverpool is a stunning event city. We're very good at events. We're obviously exceptionally good at culture, and not only the production of culture, but also its dissemination and sharing it with the world. Film, TV and music, obviously we're certainly a hotspot for those things. Film and TV is really growing, as Owen's going to tell us later on. Music, obviously we all know about Liverpool's history in music. And video games and creative technology. If you didn't know, Liverpool has an incredible history in video games that stretches back to the 1980s, to the Spectrum era, and goes all the way through to today. On top of all those incredible industries, and there's many more that use immersive technology, we have 169 organisations that utilise immersive technology in the city region, as well as a further 37 assets that are also part of the immersive ecosystem or contribute to it in some way. That includes SciTech Daresbury, it includes Liverpool John Moores University's MTC Centre, the Manufacturing Technology Centre, and the University of Liverpool's Virtual Engineering Centre, amongst many other different projects. And when we say these organisations, this isn't just hyperbole, this isn't something that we're just dreaming up off the top of our head. Invest Liverpool commissioned research into finding out exactly what the city region offers in terms of immersive technology. So, to go back to me and the company that I'm representing, Draw and Code. So, my job is marketing and sales manager, which means that I get to talk about and demonstrate this wonderful technology on a daily basis. And I can tell you that there's never been a better time to be talking about and demoing this technology. It's technology that is moving at such a fast pace, and it's such an incredible thing to be part of. So for the last 10 years, we have been working with immersive technology here at Draw and Code. And during that time, we've gone from having to explain what immersive technology is, to explain the terminology, to explain AR, VR, MR, XR. The latter I'm not entirely sure of the definition of myself, if I'm quite honest. But since then, we've seen so many companies, so many organizations, both in terms of commercial organisations or in terms of public bodies or in terms of culture, embracing this technology and using it in their own way. No longer do I have to explain what any of this technology does, because people already have their own idea of what they want it to do. During this time, we've created over 100 immersive and interactive experiences for global clients. They include all sorts of big names, such as Sony, Philips, Nokia, Hyundai and Red Bull. And not myself personally, as I definitely don't draw and I don't code, so I think it's fair to say that I'm our 20+ team have even authored 2 XR-focused patents, which is a very exciting thing for us to be innovating in that way. I'm just going to show you just one little case study of not just our work at Draw and Code, but this is a case study that's a really good microcosm of what is so good about Liverpool City Region's XR capabilities. So this is Mercedes-Benz commercial vehicles immersive roadshow. It's something that not only were Draw and Code a part of, but Owen, who will be speaking later, was the lead producer on. Now this project, it had multiple contributors from the Liverpool City region. It included PR Supremos and event organisers Meat and Potato. It included the aforementioned Juice Immersive with Owen, and it included ourselves at Draw and Code. It also included M7 Virtual, who are specialists in 360 photography and film. And there was contributions from Liverpool John Moores University and the non-profit Make. So it was something that really represented everything we could do in this region. We strategized the whole piece. We brought it all together physically, and it was a very physical thing. This was a roadshow that toured in the back of a Mercedes articulated lorry. So basically it was a big 18-wheeler that was full of these immersive delights and installations. It included augmented reality, it included mixed reality, which you can see there on the right with the Magic Leap headsets. But when you looked at that physical set, it came to life. It was such a stunningly innovative thing that Magic Leap, the enigmatic mixed reality startup in the US, they actually gave me a call at one point to say, how did you do that? Because it was so interesting and innovative and a really great way to tell the story of what Mercedes were trying to do with electrification and smart vehicles. And there was also a virtual reality component that put you behind the wheel and literally in the seat of a Mercedes vehicle, as it was motion platform VR. So that meant that the motion platform moved the seat according to where the vehicle was going in the film. So it was something that was truly immersive. Literally, your bum was even being moved by it, not just your mind. It was something that was quite incredible. And the fact that it was all delivered within the city region is something we're really proud of. And I think it is a really neat representation of what this region can do. We're great storytellers, we're great thinkers, we're great doers. Speaking of people who are exceptionally good at what they do, I would like to introduce to you Duong, who is a paediatric cardiology consultant at Alder Children's Hospital. Phu, can you take it away, please?
Thank you, Phil, for the kind introduction, and thank you, the organisers, for this opportunity to let me share some of the unique experience that we have been experienced at Alder Children of late. Can you move to the next slide, please? Yeah. Yes, so Alder is what you wonder as to what actually a hospital has got to play with this in the Nice Digital Technology Conference. In fact, I'm actually, as a recent member of Alder, I'm actually really proud to say that this is an excellent hospital. It's unique in many senses that is part of the City of Liverpool Region strategic development, where it's situated, as you see, that's the plan on the west of Liverpool, east of Liverpool, that side where the hospital is designed by children and is part of the multi-million-pound development, where it is a centre for excellence of child health development, research and innovation. And what's unique about this hospital, even furthermore, compared to many other NHS organisations, is that in the centre of it is the Innovation Centre. Can you move on to the next slide, please? Yeah. So it is a very, very busy, productive hub of interaction between patients and staff and multiple partners that are part of this organisation within the bigger NHS organisation. where it facilitates multiple activities, promotes innovation, collaboration between industries, and within this we have a Center for Rapid Prototyping, investment into artificial intelligence, immersive technology, sensors, and so on. What's not to say about the impacts of COVID have on all of us. As we all learned, it's an opportunity for us to rethink and reevaluate our current progression and as to where we would take it on forward. As COVID hit, we were literally taken away from all our luxuries of delivering our services. We could not communicate to each other by face-to-face. We cannot see our patients as readily as we like to do. And we cannot share some of the emotions that we sometimes needed to do to alleviate the pain of these parents or the children. And having said that, we ought to find a way to innovate and deliver this. There's no options to go around it, because any delay, any impacts caused by this pandemic has already been bad enough, and therefore the technology should be there to help us do our job better. And here I would like to share one of the few use cases that we developed within the hospital. Okay, the next slide, please. As you know, communication is an integral part of the service. We're used to seeing each other. We used to exchange expertise. We used to pick each other's brain into coming up with a treatment and development. And that's completely out of the picture with COVID. And within that context, we have to innovate. And thankfully, within our innovation center, we will have the ability to quickly adapt and equip ourselves with the mixed reality device. Here you see our Director of Innovation Center, Mr. Rafael Guerrero there, using the HoloLens 2, the second generation mixed reality device to communicate with the rest of the team. Next slide, please. You see that there's a picture of one of the operator of the HoloLens. In this case, I was testing it out, and we were doing a complex assessment to help decide treatment on the baby in intensive care unit. And on the picture on the right-hand side, you see the members of the team. In this case, the surgeons or anyone else in the discussion can be part of that complex decision-making process, and we were able to do all this within the most difficult part of time. Next slide, please. Can we have the next slide, please? Yeah. Yeah, there comes the. I would like to play the video next. And this here, it's just the illustration of how it's operating in practice. This is in the middle of COVID, where we had the patient being operated on, and the surgeons operating. And not obviously, sometimes we try to mitigate risks by warning the surgeons as much as possible about the potential challenges or difficulties, or so they can then plan about the strategy of the operation. But things sometimes doesn't go quite as planned. And in this case here, there was an unusual findings, whereas it has to be discussed with other members of the team. And in this case, I was deploying the HoloLens there, and then we were initiating a telephone call with multiple members of the team. And the conversation is then initiated, where Mr. Guerrero was then able to communicate with the other doctors and myself. And there you see that's a view from the inside the HoloLens, where the other members of the team can actually see what's in front of us and what the problems are, and we can then plan the alternative plan. But that's just the few idea of how we deploy this technology in practice. And I would like to move on to the next slide. So then what's next? We would like to benefit the region by helping the other hospitals that we have patients in, and we are supporting the services. in this case, we are looking after children within an area of 9 to 10 million people population, which is a very, very large area within the country. Many of our physicians and doctors are not that because they're not inexperienced, but sometimes they just need that extra bit of help. And what's better than having the benefits of the specialists in the central hospitals being there to help support them, making good decisions and empower them, making their life better, also the benefits of their patients. And then we are planning to deploy this into the environment of virtual clinics, emergency services, and then promote education material, and also the enrolling it into the community services. Can you have the next slide, please? Yeah. Yes, so that's just a brief example of some of the few use cases that we have at Alder Hey. The aim of the hospital and the management board is that we are developing a common hub where we attract as many partners as much as possible, where the technologies can be interchanged, and then we can develop some common products and innovate. And further on, we will have some meaningful product produce and to benefit the patients within our region, and so on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Phu. I was just going to ask just one or two questions. It's quite incredible, the work that is happening in Alder Hey's Innovation Hub. I've been lucky enough to visit there a couple of times, and it's the most stunning facility. In terms of when you're taking this new technology and you're using something like a Microsoft HoloLens 2, a device that's only been out for the last year or two, is it really kind of tough to kind of take something that's such relatively new technology and to actually use it in a live environment like that? Is there kind of red tape you have to go through, or are you the ones writing the rules in this case?
Actually, yes. Yeah, thank you for asking this question. Very, very good question. We appreciate it is a new technology. Obviously it does have its shortcomings and benefits. But we were in the situation where we will have to remember that COVID has taken away a lot of luxury from our daily practice, and we didn't have a lot of other alternative choices. So we then starting out using it as the test devices and test the fidelity and also the ability to communicate. And obviously arising in there, we anticipated a lot of circumstances where we would needed to be careful as to what we would have done on the other circumstance to ensure that the safety and benefits to our patients is the utmost important goal that we need to achieve. So within that process, and I mean, it's been going on for over a year now, and we were quite lucky to start deploying it from the early days, and we ahead of some of the other places in the country where we are able to think about what is the structure that we need to develop. And with from that journey, we're then able to communicate with some of our other sites and universities and other places in a different setting, things like, more places where they're more towards community services, or some places that are a bit more remote. So yeah, within that whole journey, we are able to develop some governance structure, guidance, SOPs, and also we're working with Health Education England towards developing some guidelines around this as well.
Obviously, you've been working with, at Alder Hey, you've been working with what we'll refer to as maybe spatial technologies, kind of 3D. There's been incredible progress with 3D printing, literally it scans that basically have come from individuals, patients in the hospital, and being able to literally physically replicate, either parts of their body or whatever it might be, so you can look over it in a totally new way of seeing everything. So this is, something that's something you've been working on for a long time. But do you feel like the rapid response that has been necessary, obviously by everybody, but particularly by the NHS, to COVID, do you think that kind of, to a degree opens a door to yourselves to kind of accelerate what you're doing and the implementation of what you've been already doing for a long time, but to actually put that into practice even quicker than you would have done?
That's definitely completely true in this context. In the past, in order to evaluate a technology, we need to go through a lot more red tapes than usual. Whereas now, if we already have the infrastructure, the Wi-Fi, the investment in towards the technology, everyone has got a fast computer, and there's clear focus onto developing contents which are more beneficial for education in different ways, and also to make use of the device as well, because it's not just a telemedicine communication device, but itself is a true mixed reality computer. So we can then develop a lot more meaningful content and elevate the way education is delivered at the moment. And we actually already started trying out a few smaller projects, and that's early stage at present. So it is a very exciting time ahead.
Do you believe that one day we will look at something like a HoloLens? It may not be a HoloLens, but something of that ilk will basically be standard issue to a surgeon or a doctor. What do you think that is where we're heading towards?
Yes, I see technology as a tool, as a very useful tool for us to help me do my job and my colleagues to do their jobs. There's a lot of it we cannot replace traditional education methods for medicine, especially. Is more like an apprenticeship and a vocation, rather than, you can't just sit at home and learn all these things virtually. You've got to have contact with patients, and you've got to have to develop good communication skills with each other and also with the patients. But definitely within that leaping aspects of the education and training side of things, is definitely provide tools that has never been delivered before. I remember when I went to university, there's a lot of things that are not accessible to the whole year of medical students, 300 and 400 students. One cannot expect them to, every single student to rotate through the same rotation and see the same specimen throughout. But these are the tools which will allow them to have access to it, and if not just one example or two examples, but the whole library, the whole archive of complex conditions and scenarios, if you like. So it's all up to us to develop some of those content at present. Yeah, so the future is going to be very exciting for medical education as well.
Fantastic, thank you very much. I'd now like to introduce Fiona Philpott and Scott Smith from National Museums Liverpool, who are going to talk about how technology is influencing their world and the world of museums. Thank you.
Thanks. Hi, everyone.
Hello, thanks very much. Well, as Phil mentioned earlier, we work for National Museums Liverpool, and we're the largest cultural organisation in the region. We're the only national museum group in England outside of London, and we have 4 million items in our collections, which cover art, history and science. So we're a jolly large organisation. And we're going to tell you about what we've been up to during lockdown. So over the last 12 months, things have been really challenging for us. Our venues have been closed for months, and when we've been open, visitor numbers have been really restricted. So like many organisations, we've been keen to stay in touch with our visitors and our supporters. And this has led to a huge increase in online activity, which in turn has resulted in some amazing innovation. So we found new ways to offer experiences and engagement, and in some instances to generate revenue. We've been able to offer our visitors virtual tours, both of our exhibitions and our collections, from the comfort of their homes. Some museums have streamlined opening events, as we have done, talks and performances, and we produce virtual classroom sessions and all sorts of resources for home learning. We've been churning out games and quizzes and so on. And really, the activity that we've been involved with has accelerated our digital transformation as an organisation. So we've been far, far busier on a digital front than we ever expected to be. And we've introduced a podcast series, which is hosted by Jane Garvey from the BBC, which has taken a really interesting look at our collections. And we've been telling stories and exploring them in the context of the present day. We've also been engaging with a worldwide audience, so people who can't necessarily get to Liverpool or get to our collections have been able to engage with us in the United States. There's a lot of interest in the International Slavery Museum, so we've engaged with new visitors for the first time. And of course, digital platforms are fantastic, but what they don't do is replicate or replace the excitement of being actually in a venue with collections and having the thrill of seeing original artifacts, and also the social interaction that comes with all of this as well. So we know from experience that digital technology can actually completely transform the visitor experience within our venues, within our museums and galleries. And we saw this actually back in 2018 with Terracotta Warriors. And when we staged that exhibition, what we wanted to do was make it really special and memorable. There've been loads of exhibitions on Terracotta Warriors over the years, but we wanted ours to be something really special. And we were delighted when Draw and Code, in partnership with Alder, both local companies, won the commission. And it was a combination of their creative vision and their technical wizardry that set them apart from other competitors. And the collaboration helped us to tell a unique and compelling story and to interpret the warriors in a very different way. We were able to take visitors back in time using a combination of projected AR and hand-drawn animation and VR visualization, immersive sound and audio tracks and special effects. So effectively we use 21st century technology to tell a 2,000-year-old story. So visitors experienced the sights and the sounds of warfare. They encountered the expansiveness of the emperor's burial site. And for a moment, they glimpsed the magic of the emperor's burial chamber as well. So this use of theatre with traditional museum exhibits really inspired us and has influenced some of the ways in which we are now working. And it's something that visitors have a real appetite for. They want experiences. They want something new, something unexpected, and something a little different from the more traditional approach that we've used for many years. So another project that we're working on at the moment at World Museum has been inspired by Sarah Howe, who was writer in residence on the Tide project at Liverpool University in 2018. And what we've done in the World Cultures Gallery at World Museum is to create a new installation where visitors will hear the imaginary voices of Chinese ceramics. So they hear their stories about their experiences of being on a potter's wheel, their journey across thousands of miles and across continents, their feelings of homesickness and shipwreck. And this narrative is delivered in the form of poetry, and it's been accompanied by atmospheric, mysterious and exotic animations which are projected around the walls from floor to ceiling in the gallery. And this is linked to a soundscape. And this approach offers visitors a completely different experience. It's one that stimulates the senses, it inspires different thoughts, it helps us see things from a completely alternative perspective. It opens the mind to new ideas and possibilities. And then another project we're working on is in partnership with the Nottingham-based artist Wolfgang Buttress. And this is a landmark exhibition which is exploring the evolution, the adaptation and the survival of bees and the role that they play and the importance they have to the very survival of our planet. And in this instance, we're using technology to create an immersive and sensory experience for visitors, which includes the use of algorithms to transmit the activity and the sound of bees from the hive into the exhibition space in real time. And it's been developed through collaboration with museum specialists, with scientists, with film and light and sound engineers, as well as fabricators. And it's designed to help visitors see and experience nature through completely different eyes. Creating something which is both educational and experiential often allows us to change our ideas about things and can influence us in completely unexpected ways. So now I'm going to hand over to Scott, who's going to talk to you about some of the other projects we're working on at the moment.
Hello everyone. So yeah, I'm just going to talk about a couple of the really exciting projects we have coming up at National Museums Liverpool that are using immersive tech. So following on from the success of the Terracotta Warriors exhibition in 2018, we're once again going to be working with Draw and Code on a project titled The Enchanted Museum. So the Enchanted Museum will be a large-scale immersive theatrical experience hosted at World Museum. And we really want to make this one of the most innovative and exciting museum experiences ever seen. And over the last few months, we've been working on an R&D program that's involved creative workshops, site visits to our museum stores, and detailed discussions with curators and also public consultations. The experience itself is inspired by Studio Ghibli and Spirited Away, Bill and Ted, Night at the Museum, and H.G. Wells, just to name a few. And what we really want to do is tip the museum world and the experience on its head. So visitors will interact with performers, engage with theatrical sets and projections and other immersive XR technologies that allow visitors to travel through the depths of the earth, see through walls, find treasures, and uncover lost stories, all with amazing lighting and soundtracks. So a bit like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, our visitors will be able to peek behind the curtain and get a glimpse of the inner workings of the museum. And visitors will become members of staff who will start their first day at the museum, and moving through the experience, they'll feel like they're living the story themselves as it unravels, blending both fantasy and reality. This project is still in the very early stages, but it's one that we really hope to excite our visitors with in the near future. So the next thing I want to talk about is our House of Memories on the Road project. So House of Memories is a program that's aimed at supporting people living with dementia, as well as their families and carers. And it's been a highly successful program, winning a number of awards and gaining high-level political support. My House of Memories is a digital memory resource for iPads and other tablets. And it's the first of its kind anywhere in the world. And the project itself was co-created by a dedicated team at National Museums Liverpool and people living with dementia. So when a person downloads the app, they can access a wide range of content, and it allows people to browse objects from across decades, brought to life with music and film to prompt discussion and reminiscence about everyday memories and events. The app is supported by the NHS in the UK, and it's now being used across the world, having launched in the USA and most recently in Singapore. But what the team wanted to do was to go one further than this, and we've been working on a project called House of Memories on the Road, which will utilize immersive tech in a unique solution offered by Alpha Dropbox and Immersive Interactive. Our aim is to develop a new community outreach resource, which will increase our reach and enable us to connect more directly with isolated older people and those living with dementia in a more hands-on sensory way. And then the final thing I wanted to mention today is a project that's a fun project, which is all about play, and it's a concept called Mission Chronos. So the idea behind Mission Chronos is that it will be a web AR audio-based game that takes place at World Museum. So players will have to quest around the museum, interacting with our objects and galleries to find clues in order to progress the mystery and save the world. So partnering once again with Draw and Code, we'll use cutting-edge tech to engage new audiences at the museum, particularly targeting young people and teenagers. So the player will become a hero that's been drafted in to solve the mystery at World Museum, and they'll start their experience inside, and the audio and AR elements will place them in this magical, realist world that they're questing in. The experience will take the players around the physical space of the museum and involve puzzle-solving quests that will be prompted by audio. So it will use web AR tech, and once at the correct location, the game will use AR in order to augment the player experience using audio clips recorded by voice actors. So think escape room meets the museum packaged into an exciting audio quest. We're aiming to launch this game later in 2021, so do keep an eye out for it. I'm going to hand back over to Fiona. No, it's me. So yeah, like we said, we've got really huge ambition, and there's no shortage of creative talent and innovation, as this panel's already shown. But the barrier is sometimes cost, and one of the things we have to think about at the museum is how we raise the capital investment to deliver these mind-blowing digital experiences, which do have the potential to drive tourism within the sector and within the region. So that's all from us for now.
Thank you very much. That was a thrill for me, because the Enchanted Museum there, we've yet to reveal that to the world. We've revealed the research behind it, but that's your first glimpse of what the kind of brand and the creative concept will be for that incredible experience. And just quickly, just before we go on to Owen, I just want to just ask about, we've kind of, you know, what you were talking about at the beginning with the various kind of virtual tours and virtual exhibition launches. Is this something you see continuing? This isn't a COVID-only solution, maybe. Is this something you will expect to offer with any kind of in-venue events and exhibitions in the future?
Yes, is the short answer, absolutely. So as Fiona said, our digital transformation not only amplified, it propelled us at rocket speed during the pandemic. And I think everyone internally has been really behind us with this and really seen the value of what digital can offer us as an organization. And especially with the virtual tours, we've seen the impact and the reach that they've had, specifically, as Fiona mentioned, with the International Slavery Museum. So there's a lot of interest in the United States around the International Slavery Museum, and we've had emails from people that it's allowed them to visit when they potentially never would have been able to, and engage with all of that amazing content and all of those stories that are in the museum. And equally, we had, with our dinosaur virtual tour, for example, emails from grandparents who used to take their grandkids every Sunday, and now they've been doing it virtually. So I think it just offers an alternative to the norm, and yeah, we're really keen to keep that up.
That sounds like a very good thing to be doing during lockdown indeed. Thank you very much to Fiona and Scott. Now we're going to speak to Owen Cottrell from Juice Immersive. Owen, over to you.
Thank you very much, Phil. If you could do me the honour of shifting slides for us. Hi everyone, I'm Owen Cottrell. I'm one of the co-founders and the creative director of Juice Immersive, as Phil introduced me earlier. I'm a graduate of a media production course that ran at LJMU in the late 90s, early 2000s. It was a Phil Redmond endorsed media production course, so extremely industry focused. Filmmaking focus. So it was filmmaking and my aspiration to do that brought me to Liverpool in the first place back in '97 from down south. And off the back of that course, I co-founded a video production agency called Mocha that still exists today. It's now in its 21st successful year. And I worked as a producer and director for that business on hundreds, if not thousands, of video production projects over 18 years when I was there. I worked on projects for the organisations represented on the panel today over that time as well. And the vast majority of our work was shot here in the Liverpool City region. So I know what filmmaking is in this part of the world, albeit a lot of our work was more on the commercial and corporate side. More recently, I've moved into the immersive industry, as Phil alluded to earlier. So I co-founded Juice Immersive with my business partner, Gareth Abbott, 2 years ago now. And our first major piece of work was the Mercedes-Benz Vans project that Phil talked about earlier, the Immersive Roadshow piece. And so Juice has been set up as an XR specialist consultancy and production agency. But in terms of my career path, that has exclusively taken place here in Liverpool. I've never left this wonderful city, and it's taken me through the world of traditional filmmaking and now on into immersive and XR storytelling. So that's kind of a little bit about my journey. Phil, are we able to move on to the slides? Great, thank you. So Liverpool has always been a filming city with a proud and rich heritage, and that dates all the way back to when the pioneering Lumiere brothers filmed their amazing footage of the docks here from the overhead railway back in 1896, which at the time was a hugely innovative piece of film. If you could skip us on a slide, please, Phil. So whether it's doubling as London or New York, and one more slide, please, Phil, or hosting period dramas that take us back in time, this city has always enjoyed an embarrassment of riches when it comes to locations. And it is that diverse range of locations that has attracted filmmakers from across the globe to come to this city over the years. One more slide, please, Phil. The Liverpool has always enjoyed visiting productions. That's been the sort of bedrock, really, of its filmmaking economy. And just a quick thank you to Lynn Saunders and the team at the Liverpool Film Office for some insight they've given me, some up-to-date facts and figures over the last few days. At the start of 2020, Liverpool had £100 million worth of production scheduled to take place over the following year in the city, which represented by far the biggest year that it was going to have in terms of filmmaking. Then obviously the pandemic hit, and it hit that really, really hard. But something incredibly interesting has happened since. Filmmaking was one of the industries that became unlocked first. It was given permission to begin work again under obviously strict COVID guidelines. And the Liverpool Film Office has since seen, so probably from June onwards, has seen an explosion in activity again. But there's been quite a subtle difference in the type of filmmaking that perhaps has been taking place since the restart, if you like. If you could skip us on a slide, please, Phil. A lot of the work now taking place in the city, whereas traditionally that might have been represented by major feature film activity, now it's being driven more by high-end TV production by some of the big streaming platforms, the Netflixes of this world. So a good example of that is the Irregulars, as you can see on screen here. That's a Netflix series that's just launched now. So Liverpool is now experiencing its busiest period for film and TV production on record. We're busier than ever we've been before in this city, as anyone who walks the streets will be able to testify. You barely walk around a corner often without seeing a film crew busily working away in the city. A big part of that is the LCR Production Fund. Liverpool has invested £2 million into 6 high-end TV series over the last year or so. And that 2 million then turned into £12 million that was spent locally by those productions, both on Liverpool-based crew, but also on the wider infrastructure and hospitality and everything else that goes with film production and TV production. From a talent perspective, the series I referred to before, the Irregulars, they actually took a number of trainees, young talent from places like Liverpool Media Academy, into paid roles on that production. Trainees actually went on from working on the Irregulars to working on the new Batman film, working titled Vengeance, that took place in the city more recently as well. So the production fund and Liverpool Film Office more widely has been integral to the growth of the filmmaking economy in this city. And the Film Office was actually the first film office of its kind set up in Europe, and has been responsible for the huge spike in activity that takes place here. And one other thing that the Film Office have seen recently is a spike in inquiries from post-production houses looking at Liverpool seriously now as a destination. So we're becoming a city that's not just a landing place for the locations that we have to offer and the production side of the business. It's also somewhere people are looking to actually complete work and do all the post-production on their productions as well. So, which leads us on to a little bit about the new studios project. The British Film Institute acknowledge, as does the wider industry, that we need approximately 1 million square foot of new studio space in the UK, and we need that now. That is current demand that the high-end TV and film industry have. It's actually driven more by high-end television than it is by traditional features. The exciting Littlewood studio development you see on screen there is something that we have on the horizon in Liverpool, and is something extremely exciting. But as I said, that demand for new studio space is now. It's not in the future, and it's an acute demand. And a lot of the other main studios, those down in the southeast, the Pinewoods and Sheppertons of this world, are already expanding their offer to try and meet that demand. But the levelling up agenda and government support for Liverpool has actually meant that we've been able to activate the Depot, which is the pop-up film studios that are going to appear very, very soon down on Edge Lane. And that's a way we can start to meet some of that demand and get some of that post-production and production action into the city before the Littlewoods studios more widely are developed over the next few years. So the two 20,000 square foot sound stages that the Depot represent should be coming online in June, and effectively have advanced a latter stage of the Littlewoods development and brought it forward so that we can actually start capitalising on that demand as of right now. What does it bring? The Depot alone is set to bring £24 million of economic boost to the regional economy. 360 new jobs and 760 indirect jobs as well. And the two anchor tenants that have been announced, Twickenham Film Studios and LJMU, are major coups for the studios, and also it will be a potential home for those high-end streaming services such as Netflix over the next few years. A major element of this is connectivity. So the slide on screen now represents the game changer, really, that is the digitally connected initiative that the Liverpool City Region has recently announced. The ability to send high volumes of data around the world from the Edge Lane studios and from locations around the city region will essentially connect our area up to the world in a way it's never been before, and I think will be a major differentiator for this part of the world against some of those competing parts of the UK for filmmaking. And it will support our drive to become the 24/7 film city that we want to be. So just finally, I'll talk a bit about how XR and immersive is starting to be used in filmmaking. It's not really that new, is the first point I think I'd make. So I first experienced an immersive piece of content, I suppose, back a few years back now, when Fox released a 24 Legacy VR prequel. 24 was a series I'd grown up with and was massively into and very excited about this new spin-off series. And I went into this VR experience called The Raid, where you were thrown right into the middle of the explosive action. And it just made me appreciate at that point, before I was even working in this space, just how incredibly mind-blowing a really well-produced immersive experience can be, and how close it can bring you to the action that you love. So XR has been playing a role in storytelling and in bonus features and behind-the-scenes type activity for a number of years already. But the point I really wanted to sort of get across was how it's actually starting to enable and impact the production process itself now. On screen at the moment, and the next couple of slides as well, represent the Mandalorian, the Disney Plus Star Wars spin-off, who I think are probably the best example and most ambitious example of a production that's taking immersive technology to another level. They used massive immersive LED walls on their LA soundstage, combined with virtual location backdrops that had been produced during pre-production. And just to the point Phil made before about games engines, this was all driven by powerful PCs running the games engine Unreal. And what it enabled was that operators could simultaneously manipulate the virtual location backdrop on the LED screens in real time, so that it was as if the camera was actually in those locations. So as the camera moved on set, the backgrounds could be moved in sync with that, recreating exactly what it would have looked like if the scene was being shot in that virtual location. Next slide, please, Phil. Just finally, one other example, closer to home than LA, obviously, of how XR has supported and is supporting the film industry now. Obviously, we always need to be careful about naming major studios and major projects, but a few months ago in this city, a certain Cape Crusader started appearing on our city streets and on our buildings. And this feature film had been dogged with delays due to COVID. It was just in the eye of the storm in terms of when its production schedule was. But when it did get back up and running again, one of the major challenges it had was how it could actually operate under the new COVID restrictions and the travel restrictions that were in place. A partner company of ours that worked with us on the Mercedes project, a company called M7 Virtual, actually came up with an incredible solution to the problems that productions like Batman were facing. And what they enabled was a 360 video stream from set. So they installed cameras onto the main camera rigs on set. And what that enabled was people who were unable to actually travel to Liverpool to be on location, or indeed to Leavesden down south when the shooting was happening down there. It enabled them to remotely dial in to the set to see a full 360 view from various different camera positions and actually influence what was going on set. And also the other element to that was even some of the top level crew, so the directors and the DOPs, rather than having to repeatedly walk onto set and off again to necessarily direct talent or direct lighting technicians, they were able to remain safely and distantly sat in the video village offset, but with their 360-degree view of what was going on. And they were able to direct talent from that remote vantage point. So it really managed to limit the amount of human traffic that was having to walk in and out of set the whole time. So I think that's just such a beautiful example of a homegrown use of XR being utilized by what is arguably the biggest production company in the world in Warner Brothers. So fantastic solution and just a great example, I think. And that same basic use of XR technology is now being used for things like remote location scouting and that kind of thing, situational awareness training, that sort of activity. So just to finally summarize, I think where LCR has established itself as a filmmaking destination, we're now also bringing our immersive community skill sets to the table and helping realize Liverpool's ambition to truly become a 24/7 film city. Thank you, Phil.
That is fantastic. Thank you so much. I mean, it is such a thrill to see the city on screen, isn't it? And it is incredible to see LCR-based innovation actually in action on a major blockbuster such as The Batman. Just quickly, just before we wrap up, I was just going to ask you, Owen, in terms of obviously what you were looking at with the that 24 legacy was very much about immersive delivery, about kind of being in a 360 world. What we're looking at with something like The Batman or Mandalorian is using immersive techniques in the pipeline production of the piece, whereas then it will be delivered in a conventional way. Is it something where, at the moment, will those two areas, do you think they'll stay separate for a little while, or are we on the verge of completely immersive movies with some of the kind of immersion and interaction you would expect from virtual reality and the like?
I think they'll converge ultimately. I think they already are starting to. When I think back to the different sort of waves of innovation that happen, for me, when I first entered the video industry, it was the digitization of that world that enabled me really to leave university and start up a production company the next. And I just see it as the next wave of technology. And I think it stands to reason that the thing it did first was provide an alternative form of storytelling in truly immersive experiences, allowing us fans to get closer to our heroes and to the action. But like you said, and like the examples on the presentation show, we are now also able to impact the production process itself. And I think that those boundaries will ultimately blur. I mean, we're all filmmakers now every day on our devices that we carry around in our pockets, and we can now put 360 imagery up on Facebook. We can do all of these things that a few years ago would have seemed quite out, just so far into the future. And again, I think the year that we had in 2020 has just accelerated a lot of that. So yeah, no, I think they will converge and do so beautifully as well. I think the tech that is here now is here to stay, and people are starting to really embrace it. The film industry has always embraced new technology. You'll have certain people and practitioners who are maybe a bit more old school and a bit slower to readily adopt. But you've got an awful lot of filmmakers who are coming through, who are young talent, who are just ready to start bringing the stuff to their field. So yeah, really exciting few years ahead. And
just a quick question to everybody, really. So we've heard about how immersive technology is working in the Liverpool City region, and we've had examples from health, we've had examples from culture, and from the crossover between filmmaking and XR. What are the other kind of, if anybody wants to just stick their hand up and answer, what other areas do you think Liverpool is well set up for in terms of, a sector that it works in that will work well with XR and its growing XR ecosystem?
I think one really good example is manufacturing, and you mentioned like the Manufacturing Technology Centre earlier, Phil, and we've got we've got a strong kind of footprint in this area in manufacturing, which can't be said, I think, of a lot of parts of the UK nowadays. And actually, XR is hugely relevant to manufacturing. It's going to be an enabler of new processes. It's going to be the key to massive savings and efficiencies, training, health and safety. There's so many different applications for XR technology in manufacturing. And that's just one example, but I think it's one that is pertinent to the Liverpool City region because of the wealth of manufacturing knowledge and innovation that we have here.
Fantastic. Well, I'm going to end on that positive note. So thank you very much to everybody for tuning in. Thank you to our panel, to Phu, to Fiona, to Scott, and to Owen. I'm Phil Charnock, and this is the LCR Immersive Ecosystem at Play. And thank you very much to everybody for tuning in. Thank you. Goodbye.